Gonna be so real with you. I did not expect to be sitting here after playing Liverpool at Anfield and being happy. As a matter of fact, I put up videos before saying that I would like the game to be cancelled, on account of the snowfall. I was afraid of how our players were going to deal just with the cold weather, slippery balls. And what else was gonna happen in that game? And it was one of those sink or swim moments. And I thought, frankly, so far these players have proven that, well, a lot of them anyway, that when it is sink or swim, either they really swim well or they really sink badly. There's no in between with this lot. I was really pleasantly surprised, and more so of the fact that we actually could have gone on to win the game. Now, I've basically just said to myself that Harry Maguire's goal wasn't going to count anyway, so we can just analyse what was a really good 2-2 draw result for Manchester United away at Anfield. Our first goal there, I think, for like 6 visits, which is pretty ridiculous. And I know we didn't win. It would have been our first win since 2016, but either way, we can count ourselves pretty proud of the boys after what they were able to achieve. So first off, drop a like on the video if you're enjoying. We've hit 2,500 subscribers, so a giveaway is coming. I did say so, but you got to be subscribed in order to be involved in that. This is your last chance to get involved, and the next one is coming at 5,000. So let's get to 5,000 as soon as we can. I'm upping what these giveaways are going to be each and every time. Last time we gave away a Wayne Rooney signed, a Wayne Rooney shirt. I've kind of given away what the next thing is going to be, but a Wayne Rooney shirt, and this time we're giving away something else. So please subscribe if you're enjoying it, and that's all staying in here, by the way. If you are new here, this is an unfiltered, unedited, non-toxic, safe platform for Manchester United fans to discuss the biggest club in the world. So maybe it's not Real Madrid, but we are having to discuss what I thought was the best performance under Amorim so far. I know we won the derby, and that was probably pound for pound, like in terms of results. We deserved to win that game, and we beat them at the Etihad. That was a great result. But Anfield, I genuinely, because, Pep City were going on a bit of a downward spiral, and you could see cracks in that team. There were no cracks in that Liverpool team. That was pretty much a full-strength Liverpool team, and we beat them. Nearly beat them. I keep saying beat them. It feels like we have, and maybe that's a bit of an indictment of where we are. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't expect us to come away with anything, and it was one of those games where you can easily get overawed by the occasion. And what these players have kind of proven so far, for better or worse, is that sometimes they can shrink under pressure. And some of these players, when it comes to their assuredness on the ball, or when it comes to how confident they are taking the ball out from the back, or just kind of dealing with it in awkward situations, they haven't been good at that in the past. But today, I say a couple of days. I'm kind of all over the place today. But genuinely, I thought that there were certain standout performers that they've kind of shown their level. And a lot of players showed their level. And there were a lot of really nice talking points. I'm going to go through them. And the game itself was a good one. It was a really good competitive game. I mean, 0-0 in the first half. It could have easily been a goal to either team. Højlund went through for us. I think it was Gakpo that went through for them. And it was a really good game. And then we score the first opening goal, Lisandro Martinez. And then we concede a couple of poor chances with De Ligt, who was arguably one of the worst players that we had, or the lesser players that we had on the pitch. Probably his worst performance in a Man United shirt, it has to be said. Onana, I thought, was about as solid as he can be. I mean, he made some really clutch saves towards the end of the game, especially the one from Bradley, cutting in at the near post. That could have easily gone in, because he took up a good position to try and get across, but Bradley did really well, and he had a clear shot on goal, so it was a good save, that, and it rescued a point for us. But I want to talk about the whole squad, and the back three of De Ligt, Maguire, Martinez, I think can work. I thought De Ligt was poor, I have to say. I think he will have looked at that and said that's his worst performance, and he does have that in him. He does have it in him to be a bit wayward and be a bit kamikaze when it comes to defending, but with his how he's been so far this season, I think he's still been a good signing. He's 23, 24 years old, and so cut him some slack. I'm sure he'll be fine. Maguire, I thought, was good, and Martinez was excellent. The two of them both stepped out of their role and both stepped out of the back line in order to press the opposition better than they've done all season. And Martinez has had a bad season. I think I've been quite vocal about that, and I love Lisandro Martinez. Like, if Bruno wasn't captain, I'd say he should be the guy. But he did very well. Very, very well in the circumstances of that game, and a brilliant goal. Like I always say, if you're in that sort of situation, you're kind of by yourself. if in doubt, just slap it somewhere, like either towards goal or in the vicinity of your players in the penalty area. Like, that is what you should be doing, because it's just the best thing to do. If you haven't got a clear option, like Garnacho did later, which we'll get to, smack it in, and that's what happened. De Ligt, like I said, was at fault for both goals, in my opinion. I mean, you have to stay on your legs when Gakpo sold you a dream and you're there skidding off Anfield. That was a situation where it really brings a lot of vulnerability into the back line, and you kind of saw that immediately. They piled on the pressure after that, and we conceded a needless penalty, a really needless penalty. I made a video about it on TikTok, like all my links in the description, but with that penalty, let's be very clear, it's absolutely a penalty. Your hand's up there and you're blocking it towards goal. 1,000,000% it's a penalty. The only problem I've ever had with giving a penalty like that is that Michael Oliver, the official for that game, didn't give Garnacho versus Romero, which was further away. Whoever it was in the game yesterday between Wolves and Nottingham Forest didn't give one against Ryan Aït-Nouri for the same thing that was further away. So the proximity, and the reason was because of proximity, because you're too close to the ball and you're too close to the person striking the ball that you can't get your hand out of the way. So it's a ball to hand rather than a handball. By that logic, it shouldn't have been given. But by the actual logic, it should have, and should the other two. My problem has always been the consistency, or the lack of consistency, with refereeing decisions in the Premier League, because we claim to be the biggest league in the world, the best league in the world, and yet we have some of the worst officiating in Europe for sure. And what really gets to me, and what really annoys me, is that Premier League referees are untouchable, because they have the freedom and they have the safety net of making a bad decision and then going back to their friends at the PGMOL and saying, okay, how are we going to deal with this, boys? What should we say? Players aren't given that. Managers aren't given that. So why are they given that? Managers and players have to come out, even though all they want to do is win a game, and come out and say, why didn't you win? And face the vultures of everyone there. But the referees can get away with it. I've always said, start interviewing referees. And the reason I say that is because I want more accountability within them. Michael Oliver should not be doing a game or not be given Michael Oliver cannot get something that inconsistent from one game to the next when the situations are so similar, because then you just breed complete inconsistency throughout officiating. You're not the ones in charge. You're in charge of the game, obviously, but you're not the ones we come to see, and yet they appear to want to be the main character in these stories, and it really gets to me. So in my opinion, there needs to be a much more accountability for these referees. They shouldn't be given the luxury of being able to go to their mates and say, all right, what are we going to do about this? I've messed up, can you help us out? Absolutely not. They should be in the firing line for making the wrong choice. And you might say, well, why should they do that? They don't mean to make the wrong decision. Managers and players don't mean to lose games, yet we have to hear from them. So let's start hearing from referees. And that's my little rant over with referees, because I want to get onto something a lot more exciting and a lot more uplifting for Manchester United. And that was the midfield performance of Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte. Kobbie Mainoo has struggled this season, and I think that's down to burnout, frankly. I think that's down to a lot of game time playing for Man United in England from January last season. Like, January last season was when he broke through in the Everton game, when Garnacho scored the overhead kick, and then he hasn't really missed the game since. He played in the FA Cup final, played for England all the way to where they were in the Euros. So I'm very glad, actually, that Amorim seems to have come in and noticed that. Even if it means we had to play Casemiro and Eriksen, or we had to shift things around, the fact that he's acknowledged that and said, Kobbie, you're our main guy. For our big games, you're going to be in it. And then gave him the Anfield game. Really good choice. You'd expect that Mount might be in that sort of position, with Bruno dropping in deep like he was at the Man City game. But Mount has proven that you can't really rely on him. Kobbie, you can. And he was fantastic, as was Manuel Ugarte. For me, we'll get on to Bruno Fernandes, but for me, Manuel Ugarte is the man of the match. And Manuel Ugarte is actually the type of player that Manchester United have been crying out for years. Like, how many times had we said we want a Fred type of player, but who actually has quality on the ball? Like, with all due respect to Fred, I mean, he was made to do a position he wasn't supposed to do, and he did it to the best of his ability, but he couldn't do it well. But Ugarte, that is your role. We actually have someone who's not just a shin kicker. I'm tired of people saying that. You're not a shin kicker if you have the composure and the stamina to keep on playing and getting better and growing in a Manchester United shirt, and then show that at Anfield and show that in the Manchester derby, because this guy, he's 23 years old. He's turning 24 in April. And it's the first time in about 10 years that we've acknowledged a position and we've said, okay, we're going to get one of the youngest, brightest and most exciting talents in the world, and even acknowledge the fact that they might not be in a position that they're excelling in like he was at PSG, but notice the qualities and see what he's able to do. And Amorim coming in is just such beautiful timing for him, because them two work together and you're seeing the fruits and the fruition of what that partnership is going to be. Because Manuel Ugarte, for me, has been a standout performer pretty much in every single game he's been in. He's a constant 7 or 8 out of 10 in that role. And obviously, the flashy players who get the goals and assists are going to be looked at more, because that's the harder thing to do. But there will always be space in a team, and for me, in my heart and in my mind, for a player that just gets on with the game and does the easy stuff well. Because without them, the flashy players can't do anything. And Manuel Ugarte is exactly that type of player. Like Fred said something like, he carries a piano so that the artist could play. And then you got Ugarte saying stuff like, when we have the ball, it's a game. And when we lose the ball, it's a fight. That's the type of player we need. And that is such a good player to have within the squad. And I feel a lot safer with him in it. And he's only been here for like 10, 12 games. That says a lot for me. And Bruno Fernandes, that was a proper captain's performance from him. And I'm happy on one hand, right? I am happy on one hand that he was able to do that. But he has that quality and that in his locker all the time. And you can't ignore getting sent off for the Newcastle game. You can't ignore these things, because he puts us in bad positions as well. But there was a sense of sort of positional maturity within that team, and Bruno was definitely one of them. And when he had to drop in deep because we shifted things around, he did it really well, and I'm happy with him. I'm really, really happy with him. And on another day, I know he got an assist, but he could easily have gotten a goal as well. So really good captain's performance from Bruno Fernandes. And Amad Diallo, he gets his goal, and that's through sheer persistence and intelligence from Amad, because you kind of got the feeling that Konate and Robertson were doubling up on him at any chance they get. But Amad has the strength and the presence of mind to kind of navigate those certain situations. And what we have lacked is football IQ and intelligence. And in terms of IQ, Bruno Fernandes and Amad Diallo are in a league of their own. And maybe Lisandro Martinez, because he has that in his locker from a deep lying position. But those two, their IQ is unbelievable. And his knowledge of space and predicting what the opposition's going to do, and being able to also read the game. Him and Mazraoui, which we'll get to as well, him and Mazraoui were brilliant on that side. And even towards the end of the game, they're there telling each other to calm down and keeping things there, even though the cop and everyone's shouting at them. Amad even shushed them towards the end. That is the level of maturity we need in there. And that goal, it was a good goal. It wasn't exceptional, but it was a very good goal in a crucial moment in a massive game at Anfield. So really good from Amad. And he just seems to like it. He scored the winner against Man City and kind of forced us to win that game. And he scored the equaliser there. So I thought it was really good to see. And then Diogo Dalot on the other left wing back position, his best performance as a wing back. And Jamie Carragher, I'm, as a Man United fan, I don't like necessarily listening to Jamie Carragher, but when it comes to his analysis since Ruben Amorim's come in is one of the best in the world at what he does. And because he's a defender and he knows how defenders work and what their mindsets are. And he said something really, really key when it came to our wing-backs. And he said, the reason that we've been struggling so much is because our wing-backs are thinking like full-backs. They don't know when to go forward. They don't know when to commit. And then even if the back three are ready to compensate, they don't have the courage in order to do that. Dalot had the courage today, and he had the courage against Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, he's not going to have that amount of space all the time, but that willingness to get forward, that willingness to learn under Amorim is going to hold him in good stead, because he's an athlete. If we can say anything about Dalot, he's very, sometimes he could be very poor. Sometimes he could just not turn up to games, which is unacceptable. But all of last season he did, and at the Euros. So I think there was an element of burnout with him, like I said, with Mainoo. But that showed today, I keep saying today, that showed in the Anfield game that he has qualities that we could benefit from, because the man is an athlete. And what you need to be in a left wing back is an athlete. And that's why I think getting a left wing back is going to be the priority for us, like a Nuno Mendes or, an Ait Nouri or even Alphonso Davies or whoever we end up getting in that role. Nuno Mendes would be my preferred choice. But if we get that sorted, Dalot as a right wing back, I'm happy with, because that is his preferred position. And then let Mazraoui and him fight out for that position. That's perfect. Mazraoui can then play against lower blocks, or Dalot can play against more athletic teams. Like, that's the right side with Dalot and Mazraoui. I'd be happy with for the next 1 or 2 seasons. I don't think they're the answer. I definitely think that's good for the next 1 or 2, maybe even 3 years under Amorim. We need that left wing back sorted. And the striking position is always an issue with this team until we get that link. I feel like Anfield was so good to see that link between the last line and the middle line, and sort of the middle line to the cam line. Now we need that central attacking midfield line to the forward line, because it's not there yet. And Højlund is struggling. In that game, I didn't expect much from him, because you're not going to get much joy of Van Dijk and Konate anyway, and they doubled up on him a lot of the time. So that was always going to be tough for him. However, he did his job, did as best he could. Probably should have got a goal. In fact, I say he should have gotten a goal. But he's just going to keep growing. And I hope he keeps growing, because he seems on paper, like if any football manager player would say, you've done such great things with Gyökeres, just repeat it with Højlund. It's not always that simple, but Højlund definitely has the brute strength, the physicality and the athleticism and the quality to be a very good striker. It's up to Amorim to unlock him, and him to want to unlock it for himself. Because Xerxes obviously came on, and you can say that potential assist for Maguire wasn't very good, but I like the resilience of Xerxes, and I like what he can potentially bring as one of the attacking midfield options, and maybe as a striker against a low block, like I said, to allow the other players to run off of him. I think that's a really good option to have. But we are being linked with other strikers, and we are being linked with left wing backs. And Amorim said, probably the best thing he said in any post-match interview was that he's not getting excited about anything. He's not saying ride the storm or anything like that yet, but that's what he's implying. But it's almost as if now he's getting to a stage where he knows who his best squad is. He knows who he can rely on, who he might not be able to rely on, and who he's going to have to challenge and who he's going to have to trust. But he said after that game that it annoys him, or it maddens him even more to know about the games that we've lost points in when we can play like that. Martinez came out and said that it's all about the mind. Well, if that's the case, that makes me even more annoyed. And Amorim's right, because it's not a quality issue then. It's not a system issue then. It's because you're not applying yourself properly. And I'm sorry, when you're on that amount of money and when you need to start applying yourself in any game, then you have to do that. We're still 13th in the league. And it was a nice step in the right direction this game. But then we've got Arsenal coming up in the FA Cup, and then we've got Southampton. We should absolutely blitz Southampton at home. Blitz them. No questions asked. That's how it should be. And we've already beaten them away from home, and they seem to be the whipping boys of this season. Apparently, they're on course to have an even worse points tally than Derby did, and we know how bad they were. So there's no excuses now. With these smaller games, so-called smaller games, we have to go for it. And Anfield, Man City, they're both proven that Amorim's system can work, but it needs the right application, and for that you need the right players. And there's not enough of the right players to rely on the system enough. So he's sticking to his guns, and I love that about him. Do not forfeit your philosophies for a few results, because then you've lost everything. Stick to what you know, stick to who you are, and then the players have no choice but to follow suit. That's exactly how it should be. It's like, I don't want to liken him to Sir Alex, but when Sir Alex had a 4-4-2, and he had Forlan, or he had a Veron, or he had like these players who could work in other systems, this is my system, this is what works, and I will win with this. And he continued to win with that, even if they struggled. So, and sometimes when it didn't work with them, he had to make sure that he gets the right things. And there were certain things that he needed in a goalkeeper. I remember when he went for someone like Barthez, who was like probably who Onana looks at now and thinks, you know, you were the ascendants of me. But he had to look at who he needs and apply that and get it going forward. That's exactly what Amorim should be given now. There's no excuses for it. So for me, very, very happy with the result. Very, very happy that we had some stellar performances in there, like Lenny Euro as well. Like I like the fact that you're running full pelt, 90th minute of the game. You make a last-ditch tackle in front of the cop for Nunez, who could have a clear strike on goal, and you rescue a point. That, for me, is a clear shot on target. And against Onana, you never know what can happen. So Euro, fantastic as well. Really good on the ball. And Garnacho, brilliant when he came on as well, because he got his assist. And he's logged off of X or Twitter. So we're locking in. This was a really nice turning point, and I'm hoping, because we can't trust these players yet. We can't. We can trust I trust Ugarte. I trust Euro. I trust Mazraoui. And I trust Kobbie, and I trust Bruno to an extent, and I trust Martinez, maybe. You know, that's where we are. That is, in terms of trust, who I trust, that's them. It's barely even a starting 11, is it? And we need 18 for a matchday squad, 30 for an overall squad. So There's a lot that needs to happen, but Amorim has proven that he is capable of getting results and he's capable of doing it in the right way. And he's capable of giving us some really good moments. So far, he's gone toe-to-toe with Pep Guardiola and Arne Slot and Liverpool and Manchester City at their own grounds. And he's almost beaten them both at their own game. Really, really good to see. So, let's see what happens now. I mean, Arsenal, I actually have more confidence going into the Arsenal game than I did for this Anfield game. Very honest, because not having Saka is massive. But we saw when we played them at the Emirates last time that their set pieces could just undo us. And it's not even, of course, they're brilliant at it. But losing Saka means they'll have only one side really to go off, for an in-swinger. So I'm just scared of how we're going to deal with it. So let's see how we deal with it and let's see how we can move forward. But really good win. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I keep rambling on. I keep thinking it's only going to be like a 10-minute video. It ends up being 20. If you're enjoying it, drop a subscribe on this channel. And please drop a like on the video if you're enjoying it. Let's get to 150 likes if we can. And then I'll see you at the end of the Arsenal game. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. Like I said, I want to keep it as calm, level-headed, and reasonable and non-toxic compared to some of the stuff you see out there. So if you want to be a part of that journey, click subscribe, get in the comments because I reply to as many as I can, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for sticking around.